Alright, it's been a little while. We're back working on the dad wagon. So, this particular update is to do with this little guy. So, I was looking online for a Rally Art automatic gear stick knob. So basically there's a silver chrome replacement for this from Rally Art, which looks pretty nice. Fairly uncommon and hard to come by, so just been trawling Japan auction sites and all the rest of it and seeing what I come up with. And coincidentally, I think it was Skyline Spares in Australia had this particular item listed, and the reason why it kind of flagged was they had it listed as a Rally Art turbo intake pipe. So this particular piece sits in between what would be the airflow meter and the front of the turbo. However, Rally Art never did a turbo intake pipe. You get Rally Art intercooled piping, but what this is a Monster Sport GT-A turbo intake pipe. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the only hard turbo intake pipe for a GTA. So naturally it fits the 7 and the 9s. And yeah, quite an uncommon, if not very rare piece to find. So yeah, absolutely ecstatic, because this was something on the wish list to try and pick up. So yeah, really excited to get this on. So I've already had a bit of a test fit, everything looks okay. Had to pick up some silicon joiners. So I think this is an 80mm joiner. This is the MAF end, turbo end and blow off valve. So measured everything up. So this is basically 50mm wide. On the turbo end, got basically a 60mm wide piece. I think this is 73 or 75mm in diameter. Picked up a couple of clamps this morning. That particular silicone hose came with this item, so I'm just going to potentially just cut that down a small amount, but going to be reusing that. You have the cam cover oil blow-by pipe that goes into here, and then you've got a vac or pressure line that goes into that small one. So this is the head, I don't know what you want to call that. Head, that wouldn't be the PCV. Head breather, I guess, yeah, why not? That goes into that large pipe, and then the small, there's a small vac line that runs down into the side. Can't particularly see it at the moment. But yeah, there's another vac line that runs into, or vac line, into this bit of pipe here. So, going to get everything disassembled here. May not be able to film a whole lot of the process, but it should take me about 20-25 minutes from when I first disassembled everything. And yeah, just take a couple of pics of how everything's going. One thing I do want to do as well is I picked up some of this gold heat reflective tape, because this has been becoming a little more common in the, I don't know, you want to call it the user enthusiast market. This stuff was been around motorsport donkey's years. They used to put it on firewalls and other bits and pieces to reflect any radiant heat. So the Evo being a fairly tight package, engine and gearbox wise, the amount of heat in this thing is absolutely unreal. So if I can try and save some air density by wrapping some of the intercooler pipe, and I'm going to be doing this pipe here, just to start with, all the better. Alright, I'll try and take some vids of partway through the process. Okay, so I've removed the top part of the intake for the air filter box, the actual air filter itself, see over there. remove the, I believe it's the fan controller that sits here, so you'll just need access to all the screws for the blow-off valve and just a bit of space. And also remove the heat shield because you need to get access to basically undo this bolt here that secures the current rubber or silicon intake pipe to the front of the turbo. So just a screwdriver is able to get access into there. If that's been spun around or has a different access point, Lord help you. But yeah, when you put everything back on, just make sure you can get access to all the screws and stuff at a fairly reasonable angle. But yeah, if those have been spun around, then you're going to be in a bit of a world of hurt trying to get under the car and get access to everything. But that's been the first lot of steps. At this point now it's just kind of just systematically removing bits and pieces. So airbox will come out next, basically loosen off all the intercooler piping and clamps, and basically get the blow-off valve out, and then they'll give you access to basically the intake pipe from there. Alright, we got all the bits and pieces out that we needed to. So you can see the turbo inlet down there, all the airboxes removed, intercooler piping, blow-off valves out, the breather hose is off, the gearbox breather hose is disconnected, and the other boost line or vac line is this guy here. I believe that's the output from possibly the boost solenoid. So that guy there, I believe. So, but I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but you can see where the 3-port valve is now. Another hot tip for auto to manual differences. I was reading through a forum doing a guy doing some mods, maybe in New Zealand, I think it is. The airbox bracket is specific between auto and manual, so don't get those mixed up. Likewise, most of the air intake kits, or the aftermarket stuff at least anyway, suit a manual setup. So I believe the workaround is you can still use the lower half of the airbox, use the manual bracket, and then that way it'll line up with the holes because it's slightly tilted on the autos. So if you've got an auto and that's the reason why it's not fitting, then maybe grab yourself another bracket. Obviously this is my second crack at doing it, but seriously this didn't really take a whole lot of time the second time around. So you can see on the ground here basically the stock intake pipe and how this actually connects up to my MAF dummy piece. So yeah, it's all, like I said, all is fairly okay. Honestly, I don't know how much of a performance improvement that there really is between the rubber and the metal intake pipe, but it is what it is. Definitely got a bit more of a bend in it. I'll get the Monster Sport one hooked up and you can kind of see the differences. But yeah, that's the factory intake pipe. Alright, here's the Monster Sport one hooked up, and you can see it's definitely a little more in line. And I believe the way they get around this is by having basically this massive indent here to get around this part of the dipstick here. So you'll see in a few videos the guys that have tried to put the rubber silicon, I think it's like Shift Performance, I think is a fairly common one, silicon intake pipe down to the turbo. Most of the guys rotate the dipstick, but that just seems like an absolute fuck around, to be perfectly honest. There's a bracket in here that secures into place. I have no idea what it actually does by actually rotating it, if it fucks up with anything, but likewise you've also got your breather. Yeah, I just don't know how good of an idea it is. Again, which is what makes those things very sought after. So yeah, I'll don't think there's really too much else to explain. Gave this pipe a bit of a clean so it can cool down and I can get the tape on it. So I'll get the Monster Sport intake hooked up to the turbo and yeah, come back to you. Alright, so this is just a bit of a test fit. So airbox is mostly in place here. There's a little rubber grommet that sits underneath there. Be careful not to pinch or roll that because your airbox won't sit properly. But yeah, overall it's sitting in there pretty good, to be honest. I have got the turbo intake band tight. That one is a little loose just to manipulate everything. That I've just got to reposition a small amount, but then yeah, get the clamps on and the nose are fairly well good to go as well, and then it's just putting all the top bit back on. So yeah, pretty close. Yeah, overall not too hard. I did a lot of prep before I took all this stuff out. So that's a 60mm piece of joiner, and that's a 50mm to try and get the lengths just right, and then obviously get the bands on either side. So what ends up happening between the front of the turbo and the turbo intake pipe, there's about maybe 5-6mm gap, and the same on this end. So if you're running an aftermarket intake or something, fuck knows what you're going to do, but at least for a stock MAF or one of the dummy prints that I've got, yeah, 50mm and a 60mm silicon joiner. I think it's like, I've got rid of the things, but it's like 75 or 76 in diameter, or 63, and then 75, one of those two. But yeah, that's kind of what you're working with if you just want to yeah, make up your own joiners. So yeah, cool. Get everything secured. Once that's on, that's secure, it'll be blow off valve, then the breather hose, the other fucking vac boost line, whatever you want to call that, and then we'll get into wrapping that guy. Alright, and it's all back together again. So got the upper intercooler pipe wrapped. It took about 20 minutes or so. First time kind of doing that. I think it's turned out alright. Got the fan controller back on, heat shield back on, everything's all done up. Kind of just positioned all the hose clamps in a manner that it should be easy enough to get undone if you have to pull stuff apart. So coming up to the blow off valve, yeah, that's pointing out towards the front. This guy here you need to rotate over, otherwise it'll fail on the air intake lid. This one here you can kind of leave because you've got access down here to get rid of all the airbox first, so that opens up that. Yeah, as I said, you need to remove that and the heat shield before you even get started, so that will give you access to that one there for the blow off valve. And then yeah, once the heat shield's gone, you've got access to that one for the blow off valve, and obviously for the intake on the turbo. All the vac lines are back on. Yeah, had to run a new hose, as I mentioned before. The old one was just a bit short. So, gonna fire it up and see if there's any notable difference, but probably isn't gonna be, but let's find out. Oh, this car up and running. Can't really hear too much through the intake filter. Mildly audible with the filter out, but there's a lot of ambient noise. Well, when you're giving it the beans, there's a bit of noise now, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, get everything on, go for a drive and see how it is, but that's how you install a Monster Sport GT-A turbo pipe.